Hi, Johan. Welcome back to the podcast. How are you doing?
Hi, yeah, I'm doing fine, thanks. How are you?
Oh, perfect. So, why I would like to have you back because I see more and more killer use cases for JavaFX actually, and it seems like you're doing well. So, your platform is doing well. It seems also that you have a lots of clients. So, what is the progress of JavaFX or OpenJFX or Gluon? So, what the state of Gluon right now?
So, first of all, I think, yeah, you're right. JavaFX is getting popular again. It was not the most popular framework for a while after Oracle disinvested in it. And that was a problem for Gluon because with Gluon Mobile, we wanted to have JavaFX on mobile and on embedded. But if JavaFX in general was not popular anymore, it was even harder to convince developers to use JavaFX on mobile. So we spent lots of time and resources on making JavaFX popular again on the desktop and actually on everywhere. And that is working pretty well now. So you see indeed more use cases where JavaFX is being used. And we always made sure that whatever you do for JavaFX on the desktop also works on mobile and embedded. And over the past years, the focus, let's say marketing focus was mainly on JavaFX in general. But we do see now that there's growing interest for JavaFX Everywhere, which means mobile and embedded. So we keep supporting JavaFX on the desktop for sure. So we still I'm the co-lead of OpenJFX, and we are driving that forward, and we are going to increase our efforts in that area. In the desktop area, we are going to add more additions on top of JavaFX and distribute that to our customers. So we definitely keep improving that offering, but we're also moving more resources to embedded and mobile, because that is a huge potential area that is still where Java and JavaFX are still very, they make lots of sense. And look at embedded, for example. There's not really a standard platform for doing embedded development work, let alone for UI development.
Now is, your marketing talk as a CEO, CTO of a global company, right? With several hundred employees. But we had you back at. You were already on the podcast. This was the episode 6 and the episode 70 where we covered, the history of JavaFX. And what JavaFX is, just for the listeners who are new here, is it was first the idea to replace Swing, because Swing had some problems back then with GPU acceleration. I would say, not that my GPU was. I think the main reason was Swing was not flexible enough to support all the effects and CSS and stuff like that. Right? This was, I think, the main reason why Oracle started with JavaFX back then. Would you agree with that? So this was what I watched, the talks with the Swing people in JavaFX, 10 years ago or when it was. They were concerned that Swing is really harder and harder to build modern UIs, and JavaFX was more flexible user interface technology, right? This was the reason from Oracle back then, or even Sun.
Yeah.
Sun actually.
Yeah. So it was still Sun then, and indeed AWT and Swing were done in a rush. Yeah. Mainly, they needed to be delivered because they wanted to show something with UIs. But I do know from some of the original members of that team that they were never happy with it, and they wanted to redo it again in a proper way. And there are about 20 years between Swing and JavaFX, so lots of things have changed in the graphics industry. And JavaFX is indeed a modern replacement of Swing. Also, the programming model evolved over time, of course. Immediate mode versus maintained mode. That is something that changed. And JavaFX was indeed a major boost for the UI components of the Java platform.
Yeah.
And it was also, I think, the intention from the beginning to do this everywhere, because, as you know, Java started on the Star 7, which was not a cloud device, which was not a desktop, which was sort of a PDA that James Gosling used for
There's still an amazing YouTube video with the Star 7 from James Gosling. And you're right. And from the beginning, JavaFX was also meant to run on mobile. What I remember, I still have a cellular phone, like a smartphone, which is the origin one, which was supposed to be the reference implementation for JavaFX. I forgot the vendor. It is actually no more exists. This was...
it's HTC Diamond or the Savage phone.
Not Savage. It is still... the company is still around, but this not doing right.
And it's HTC.
HTC, exactly. This HTC what I got, exactly. This so one obvious or very how to call it, more and more, how to call it, a interesting example of JavaFX comparing to Swing was, mouse over, what I remember, right? So if you like to mouse over a text field, so with JavaFX, you can have shadows without disturbing the layout, and Swing would be harder to implement. So this was one of there are lots of such small cases where we're really easy with JavaFX and really hard with Swing. And with JavaFX, it was also really easy with the CSS-like layout to even create very easily your own components. So you could, like in HTML, you can just draw a box and say, okay, this is the component. And this was harder with Swing. You would have to use Java 2D, which was more like SVG and less like DOM, I would say, right? So and what happened then is, so Oracle announced, at the Java 1, I forgot the year, the support for iPads.
2007, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, so we already investigated that, and then it disappeared. So they said, okay, it will come. They really show a demo with the who is the iPad, right? And it run on stage. And then I was really curious whether it will work. And then it just disappeared. And you told me the story. The reason was that they actually wanted to have their own mobile framework supported on JavaFX. And then JavaFX more or less died from Oracle perspective. But you got the sources, and you are now the benevolent dictator of JavaFX, I would say, with the open source community. But this is the short story, right? So you got the sources, and because you are, I would say, we already had it, you have interest in the capability in low-level programming. So you were the guy behind Blackdown Linux, right? Back then, porting Linux porting Java to Linux. So you managed, to provide the low-level programming for JavaFX, and you are supporting now the JavaFX runtime for mobile for all platforms. And I was really concerned because you are a small company. I said, okay, let's see whether it will work at all. Because what I really don't believe is no small companies which are, how to call it, persistent enough or have the resources to maintain JavaFX over a long time. But it seems like you are doing this. And not because only you have a company. What I know, you are a crazy Java guy. So it's like, a marathon in your head. So I don't think that you will just, this is like your passion. So this is at least what I see. So as long as you can, you will support the stuff. This is my impression. And you're still convinced. And therefore I say, okay, exception from the rule. So JavaFX with Gluon and your company can actually doing well. And you get more and more clients. So it seems like viable business, right?
Yes. So, well, for
was it the right summary? So, like, with the JavaFX, you got the source code at the time, and then you are maintaining as an open source project JavaFX, right? So this was the short history of Java. Was it right, JavaFX?
Yeah, I think it's mainly right. Well, I think a few additions. The source code when Oracle stopped working with JavaFX on mobile, the source code of JavaFX was already in a very good shape for being used on mobile, and that's a pity. I mean, that was very good for us because that means that we didn't have to start from scratch. It's not that. I mean, with the Blackdown case, when we had to support Linux, there was literally no Linux statements in the code, so we had to do lots of work. But here, there were already mobile rendering pipelines in the OpenJFX code base, but Oracle didn't want to use them, and I think that's a historical strange event. I mean, if you're a very big company and you own the most popular programming platform on earth, which is Java, and then for mobile, you are saying all our strategy is JavaScript.
Yeah.
That is a very very strange. But there were not really very much technical reasons for this. And so the good thing for Gluon was that the technology was already in an excellent shape. simply because Oracle wanted to promote another mobile application framework, did not mean that from a technical point, JavaFX was not a good approach. So it was more making sure that some of the code was bit rotten. So we had to make sure that that was working correctly. And then I think one of the major focuses was make it simple to maintain, because as you say, with a small company, doing everything is impossible. So what we always try to do with JavaFX on mobile is upstreaming whatever is mobile specific to mainstream, so that it's being maintained and that we don't have a fork of JavaFX, but that and still today we build from the main sources. So that means that we don't have to maintain our own repository. We have some specific build changes, of course, and some additions on top and below. But the major point is that we can leverage the work that's going in upstream. If you're a small company, you need to try to benefit from what the others are doing and making the diff as small as possible.
Some observation. So the relation between your company and JavaFX is more or less like Red Hat and Linux, right? Or Payara and Glassfish. So it's not like someone else maintains the open source and you version of JavaFX and you hope that they do the right thing. You are one of the main contributors and you are a good steward of JavaFX. So that's why I called you a benevolent dictator, because I know you from, I think we know each other for 15 years or something, and we always had fun at Java 1. And I know that you are crazy passionate guy about Java, so we always had the conversation. So so what it means is there is an open source piece of JavaFX, and you provide added value with the Gluon, but you are still an open source guy. I mean, otherwise you wouldn't port Java to Linux, which was more or less fun for you. So, and you did lots of such projects. Just to remember the listeners, I remember after Java 1, if something was new, you came to me and said, I didn't sleep the night, but I have the first demo. This was always your mode at Java 1. And regarding small company, I think if the business works, Java was created by a small group of people. The entire Java. It's not like this was a huge company. So what I don't believe, actually, I don't believe that huge projects are good for software. There's actually no example in the history of software engineering that a huge group of people create something, great. Everything, small dedicated teams, created great things. And then if it grows, you need marketing, support, and whatever. But the engineers, you don't, and if you have the resources, you can keep doing this forever. And what I also don't believe, I'm a software developer, in growth, you don't have to grow. You have to be sustainable, and if you have fun, you can just enjoy it. And this is why, the size of the company doesn't matter a lot. And if the company reaches a certain size, it could be even worse for the project, because then politics came in place, and there are now lots of decisions which are not reasonable.
Yeah, that's true. Well, at least I agree with that from the engineering point. I think at a certain point, if you simply add more engineers, developers, you're not gonna make more progress. And so that allows us to stay healthy with Gluon, even if we're still small. There are some cases though where, for example, if you target the automotive market, then 90% of the effort is not going into engineering, but it's going into talking to these people. I know you have a few customers in automotive as well, and it's more sales and marketing, getting approved to be a supplied vendor, knowing the right person. So that is everything that is non-technical. That needs to be there as well. And I think with the potential that JavaFX has, we can stay small as a company, but the potential is so huge. And in order to really leverage that potential, we need to grow, not really in the from the engineering side, but from the company side, which means we need to do more sales and marketing. And that's actually the real challenge that we are facing. If we want automotive companies or healthcare companies or big mobile companies to use our technologies, they look at the size of Gluon, and they might be worried if they see that this is a very small company. So that is why, even though I completely agree that from a technical point, our team is, I think, the right size. Maybe a few more engineers would be nice, but the total company size is something that apparently seems to be important for many bigger projects.
Yeah, but you have to find a sweet spot, because if you're growing big, then it's just about politics and marketing, and there is no more fun. And you could also, try to work with partners, whatever, so you don't have to grow. So I mean, there are solutions for that, and it is also dangerous, to count just on automotive, because they also change their mind frequently, and it can, you can spend lots of efforts to work with them, and the next year later you are just laid off without knowing why. So but this is like I just want to focus on the killer use cases for JavaFX. So if we just consider the source code, the open source, as I found there is JavaFX 15. So right now, this is the open source JavaFX. So it is comparable with that we had at the Oracle times, right? So this is like desktop toolkit for build great looking Java apps. And right, this is the first.
Yes.
This is the open source. Okay, then I'm right. And I could imagine with some magic of GraalVM or JMod or whatever, now we can even create a native, not how to call it properly. It is not like, it's not Java. It is like Java cross-compiled to native image, which is one file or one 20, 30, 40 megs file, which is executable for the platform and starts fast. And technically, is it technically Java? It is, because there is a kind of garbage collector inside, but this is an executable file, right?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And this is possible right now, right? So with the open source version of JavaFX, without any Gluon, without any of your work, I can create a JavaFX application for desktop without any dependencies on any commercial stuff, just pure open source. And then even with GraalVM, I could cross-compile it to a native project, right?
Yes. So we have a product. It's an open source product, so Gluon Substrate, which is actually the entry point for this, and it's integrated. We have an IDE plugin for NetBeans, IntelliJ, Eclipse, and with that plugin, you can convert your JavaFX code into a native image that works on Mac, Linux, Windows, Android, iOS, and embedded. So that is already working. So it's integrated in this IDE plugin. So it's not that you need to study how to deal with GraalVM and set the reflection properties. And so that's all integrated. And that is indeed, well, the addition of using the AOT compiler of GraalVM is really a killer feature for both desktop, because startup is much faster. You don't need to install and maintain a JDK yourself, but it's also a killer feature. It's an enabler for embedded and mainly mobile, because if you remember that HTC Diamond phone that you had at Java 1, you had to install or it came installed with a Java virtual machine. And the applications required that component to be pre-installed on the device. And that is a showstopper for Java on mobile. You can't have something in the App Store or the Play Store and then first requiring users. You have to root your machine and install a JVM there, your mobile phone. So that's not working. So the thing what we do when using GraalVM native image is we bundle the application code with the virtual machine, including the garbage collector and the whole threading support and the links to the native device. And that is all part of one executable. So you do not need to install Java, a JDK on your mobile device or on your desktop anymore. And that is what is a very big difference compared with 10 years ago, when Sun tried to push JavaFX Mobile. That still required the Java virtual machine. That still required that they talked with Samsung and all the mobile device manufacturers for bundling a JVM on those phones. And you know that you have to update the JVM every now and then, and that was not possible. That is a major change.
So back then we need to know WebStart technology or something to download the code, and the WebStart was not able to replace Java because it was more or less a Java app. So there were two processes, updated Java and WebStart, which was not very simple to use. And now what we could do is right now we have fast internet connections. We can replace the entire image, which is 30. It really depends how many assets you have, but I would say if you just have plain application, you could go with 20, 30 megs and just download it even every time, right? And this is very, very similar experience to Quarkus or Helidon in the backend. So this is exactly what they are doing. JavaFX does for desktop. And what I understood, there's with the JavaFX open source, pure open source JavaFX code, you will need an open source component from Gluon called Substrate. This is the same name as the Substrate VM. I think this is where you got inspired. And with the Substrate VM or Gluon Substrate, you can just cross compile, the JavaFX to a native image, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And it works on Windows, Linux, and Mac, or which operating systems?
Yes. So our main development focus is on Linux and Mac, but we also support Windows. So we do follow the GraalVM roadmap a bit there. So they also focused first on Linux, Mac, but there's Windows support as well now. So we have support for that as well, and then also for the mobile platforms.
So desktop is interesting. But I think the killer feature is mobile, and what I mean by mobile is as particular Android and iOS. So if you manage, to develop an app on desktop and then run it on iOS, on Android without a friction, this is a big deal. Because right now there are not a lot of frameworks doing that, and the old frameworks are dying. So Cordova now lost complete support, was complete actually proprietary, and now you won't be able to run it. It is also dangerous because what iOS can do with such apps, they can say, okay, this is not a native technology, so they can just remove it from the App Store. But JavaFX is actually native, right? It is an iOS app, so also it is Java. It is actually a native iOS app, and this is because the groundwork Oracle late 2007 or 2008 when they no, it was later, I think, with the JavaFX. This was Sun still. What they did with the ARM or iOS support back then, because iOS is basically ARM. So how easy is it to create an Hello World project with one button and ship it at the same time to Android store and iOS store?
Well, there are a number of examples in the stores already now. And for example, Gerrit Grunwald, the famous Gerrit Grunwald.
Yeah, there's the famous, how it's called from Star Wars, right?
Han Solo.
Han Solo, right? Exact. Twitter account, Han Solo, exactly.
Yes. So he created a game started for desktop, SpaceFX, which is some asteroids kind of game. And then he used Gluon Substrate to so that worked on desktop, and it also worked on embedded on the Raspberry Pi. My kids love it. So I have my Raspberry Pi connected to my TV with HDMI, and then you can play SpaceFX on a big screen. So that's cool. But then Gerrit also used Substrate to deploy that on iOS and to deploy that on Android. And so that's the same code. So that really works. And Paul and Gail Anderson, for example, or their son created a golf game, and it was very easily to deploy that to the App Store and the Play Store as well. So it really does work, and it's well, as I said in the beginning, our biggest problem is not the technology but the marketing, because most people don't know that this is possible.
Exactly.
And
this is what I can tell you. This is the killer use case. I don't believe, the killer use case of Gluon Mobile is the desktop, because I would say for trivial applications, we can use web components, what I do all the time. But there are corner cases, and I see it more and more. And clients ask me about Flutter. You know Flutter?
Yeah.
And so Flutter looks nice, and it is nice. But the problem is you will spend at least, I would say, half a day installing the Flutter. So it will download, I guess, it was without exaggerations, 5 gigs of tooling from different sources. And at the end, it works great, but this is not Java. And the main problem of Flutter is Google is behind, and they can also change mind. And Google is not very well known for, sticking to their projects. So if you ask me, Flutter or JavaFX, and I know you, I would actually choose JavaFX right now. I am a Java developer for mobile. So, and why I'm asking you this about the experience, because it is not the problem developing the application and creating the native image, rather than get, the application to the App Store. So you have some support about that, or will I have to use Xcode or what? Or yeah, probably I will have, but what is the experience of registering a JavaFX application in the App Stores?
Yeah, so that is very similar to any other native application. So under the hood, Gluon Substrate uses Xcode, and the end result is an IPA package that you then upload to the App Store. The main difficulty is you need to provide some screenshots, some description. You need to tell, is this suitable for children or not, and so. But these are exactly the same as any other iOS app that you upload to the App Store, and the same with Google.
So I would be able during the development time to use the Xcode emulator to see the JavaFX app on iOS, right?
That should work, yes. But what we do recommend is program on desktop as long as possible, and debug everything on desktop. And when it's ready, then then use the then go to the device. And actually, a real iOS device is much faster than the simulator, so I always use a real device to debug. But it is almost the same as how you would do native iOS development, and most of the difficult things, for example, signing the application in the end, it's also something non-trivial. That's all done by the tools. So
which tools? I mean, your Xcode tools or Substrate tool?
Substrate. Yeah. So Substrate is calling into Xcode for checking your provisioning profiles and making sure that you can sign an application and that it is a developer profile or a non-developer profile, and so that's all taken care of. And that actually that was harder than making sure that Java works on.
That's what I believe, because the Flutter is the same. So Flutter works, but if you try to make the emulators working, so you can watch Stack Overflow, there are lots of issues until it works. And I would say if you integrated everything into Substrate, your open source plugin, then I would say the experience for a Java developer should be similar, if not better, than Flutter. And the huge added value we have is we can just use our IDEs we always had, and they are still better than Visual Studio Code, I would say. I mean, there is a huge difference between NetBeans and IntelliJ or Visual Studio Code, and even Eclipse. And by the way, Visual Studio Code is actually Eclipse, wrapped Eclipse with less functionality. But so what you get is Java development with all unit tests and whatever we have, with JavaFX, which is actually proven technology because it is in production for 20 years or 15 years, I would say. And
so
at the end of the day, we can use a Gluon tool, which is open source, to push it to the iOS App Store. What's about Android? So do you get
exactly the same? So it's the completely same approach. So the end developer doesn't care. The same code, the same procedure, the same plugin works on for Android as well. Actually, when you talk about Flutter, and we hear that question often, I turn the question around. Why would a Java developer, if you have lots of experience in Java, what would be one reason to use Flutter?
Yeah, not like for instance, some concrete cases. In one company, we do a boring web components project, web standard, JavaScript. We already had the conversation. And then the client said, yeah, but we already have a Flutter app and we have to integrate.
Yeah, so but why do they have?
Because so the same story like why Oracle, de-invested from JavaFX. It is this is like there are no technical reasons. This is what I told you. I think that JavaFX, the killer use case, is this what we are talking about. Not that we do something with desktop, because no one is interested in desktop. We have too many competing technologies on the desktop, and you can still package web components desktop, and this is good enough. But for mobile, this is actually the big deal, because doing the store submission right, or at least get the support for the technical stuff and the marketing. I mean, you have to deal with it anyway. Like the how it's called, the age limitations and the screenshots and stuff like that is just business as usual. So there are different tools for doing that, and the Flutter is. People like Flutter, people like Vue.js, people like Angular. There are no technical users to use Angular, so I still don't understand why it is around. And is people invested it already. There are books written about that, right? So you will get Angular the next years until it really dies. And sometimes if I have the power, so you can do something about that. This is what I'm asking you. But there's lots of such projects for mobile. And for instance, what I have a lot, we can do a lot with web components and SPAs, PWAs. And the reason is very similar to Java. I can write a simple JavaScript application which looks like Java and runs on the devices, kind of, right? I have no access to the hardware. So I get some access, but not a true access. And this is the next thing what I found. Gluon attach, I think, is the API from you. So what you can do for me is you can expose your native sensors of the device or capabilities to a JavaFX app. And this is the true killer features, because now I cannot use my web components anymore. I will have to use something proprietary. And now the question now what to choose. I could use Flutter, or I can use JavaFX. And I would say I would trust you more than Flutter. Why? Because you are a small company, right? So we can have a support contract with you and say, okay, please expose this device or whatever. And I think if it's possible, you will manage to provide that. So this is the attach framework, right?
Yes, yes. And so that's indeed funny enough a case that we often see, that companies have a web page, but they can't integrate with the native devices. So what they do is they convert the web application to a JavaFX application so that they can get access to the native devices. And they do that in phases. So they first have a JavaFX web view that renders their web page, and then they use the JavaScript Java bridge in JavaFX for doing the JavaFX code for going to the device. So that is indeed something that's working often. Now, I think there's another major reason why a company would want to do this, because if you have Java developers, do you want them? There are about 12 million Java developers. They can program for mobile. They don't need to learn Dart or any other new language to go to mobile. The problem is that most don't realize this yet, but that is actually the main reason why I think when I ask companies, why do you use Flutter? Oh, because that's cross-platform.
Exactly.
Well, the same is with Java. It's cross-platform, and there are way more Java developers than Dart developers. And I'll come back to the attach immediately, but another major reason on why I believe that our approach has huge potential is we're not talking about Java, but actually we're talking about the JVM. Because with Substrate, we compile not only Java code, but also Scala code, Python, and everything that's offered by the GraalVM ecosystem can be transpiled into and then compiled into a native image. So every language that is supported by the Java platform or by extension by GraalVM can be used. So that means that you do not need to learn a new language. And I think we're almost getting on a TooManyLanguages exception, because every new use case requires a new language, but that's extremely expensive for companies to keep investing it. So if you have skilled Java developers, why not asking them to use their skills to create mobile apps with Java as well, instead of outsourcing it to some company that's skilled in Flutter or Objective-C? And well, as you said, with Google, if you invest in a technology, the only guarantee that you have is in a few years they will probably stop that technology. Look at Google Wave, the Google Wave protocol, which I liked a lot. They pulled the plug, so you don't control that. And with Java, it's
Google
much more
Web
open
Toolkit,
source.
right? Google Web Toolkit was
Exactly.
another technology from hell for me. I never. And it was hugely popular, and I never got it. But there's a Google Cemetery. If you go to the page, there is a web page with all dead Google projects actually, and Flutter, what Flutter does behind the scenes, it provides abstraction for two platforms. So it doesn't expose everything from iOS and Android, but the common thing. But what we could do, we could say, okay, I know Johan, we need just iOS app. So I will ask him, how hard it is to expose another sensor just for iOS, and this should be doable, right? This is a hack, but this is doable hacks, which I think companies could hire you to do that, right? So we need a specific LiDAR, let's say, LiDAR sensor, and we would like to expose it. This should work, right?
Yes, and that is also happening. So we have some customers that, for example, are only interested in Androids or in iOS, and they need to integrate with one specific serial port extension or whatever. And then we do that as a project. But what we always try to do as well is we see if it would be relevant to others as well, and then we ask them, can we make this open source and put it in attach? And most often companies say yes, because they know that if they make it open source, others will use it, and it will be easier and cheaper to maintain.
Exactly.
But in some cases, for example, if you talk about LiDAR, that might be proprietary, and so then we develop specific extensions to attach. So attach is a set of services, I think you can compare it with what Cordova used to have as well, a whole variety of APIs that as a Java developer, you use the top-level Java APIs to get, for example, the location of a device. And then the implementation is different on Android and on iOS, but you don't have to worry about that as a Java developer. And we have a bunch of pre-existing services in Attach, and there's and we document somehow the extension mechanism. So you can use that approach to integrate with your own native hardware, or you can ask Gluon or other companies to extend Attach. So it's not that you're limited to the current set of devices. It's just those are available, and it's easy to extend that mechanism. And it's actually, again, one of the most powerful things. We talk about JavaFX, but under the hood, the major thing is it is still Java, and Java with JNI, and it's easy integration into native C or C++ language make it very easy to talk to those device drivers and so on. And that's, of course, much harder with JavaScript or a Dart solution.
Exactly. What you already have in Attach, I just opened the page. So you have accelerometer, audio recording, barcode scan, which this is actually the huge one, because if mobile, some companies ask me about that. Battery, Bluetooth low energy, you have the browser, cache, camera, picture, compass, connectivity device, hardware and software, okay, display, geolocation, GPS, also a classic one. In-app billing, interesting. Lifecycle magnetometer. This is interesting. Magnetometer. Okay. Notifications, orientations, phone, runtime argument, which means native notifications. Okay. Custom URL handlers, native notifications. Big deal. This is big deal because without that, you will need to create your own or maintain your own gateway, which pushes native notifications via service workers, which doesn't work in all devices. Then settings, share. Okay, this is share content. It's also huge. Status bar storage. Okay, local storage. And I mean, there's not limited to what was it? I think 5 to 50 megs, like the local storage, right? So you can write, and vibration and video. And regarding the browser, this interests me. So in Java, I would run on iOS and I have the web view, I guess I get the Safari renderer engine because it is the only thing which, right?
It's not, well, you will get the wrapped WebKit.
Yeah.
But then
from iOS, right?
Yeah.
From
yes.
iOS.
So yeah. Uh-huh. Well, so Safari, there are two. If you use the Attach service, you can launch the Safari app, iOS. Mm-hmm. And if you just use the JavaFX web view, you use the JavaFX wrapper around WebKit. So the engine is the same, but in the first case, you open a new app, the Safari iOS app, and in the second case, you stay in JavaFX and you don't have the menu bar. And so
this is what I understand. But on Safari, let's say the Chrome or Firefox browsers are actually wrappers around the Safari WebKit engine, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
This is technically, so there is no Chrome browser on iOS. It is actually something which looks like Chrome, but it's actually Safari, which is based on WebKit engine. And JavaFX does the same. So I would get exactly the same rendering engine of Safari or Chrome, or is it something which you ship with the app?
No. So what on desktop we ship the complete WebKit, compiled WebKit, but on mobile we do not do that. We leverage the WebKit library that's available on the device. So we use the native library, the native WebKit components on the device.
That's actually exactly the same what I would get if I were Google with Chrome, what they have to do with their browsers, or if I were a Xcode developer and Swift developer, and I would use the web view in Swift, I would get the same exact component.
Yeah, well, you will still get a wrapper because the web view component is some wrapper around the underlying WebKit or Chromium implementation.
Yeah. But where I'm going with it, so this is great news because I get the similar web standard support as Safari. So I could actually ship my web component application to this and interact with Gluon Attach to get access, to the sensor. So I could actually build a hybrid app, which runs in JavaFX, and for you could expose some APIs to JavaScript, right? You could actually, the APIs should be doable, that you actually expose, and then I could call you and do extend the capabilities of the web platform with JavaFX.
Yes, yeah, that is, yeah, that's indeed the case that's been used as well. Yes, and in general, people sometimes ask, is this and this and this supported? Well, if it runs on your Safari app, it runs on JavaFX as well. That's indeed the case. For example, the WebGL support, and so that is the same. If it works in Safari on your app, then it works in JavaFX as well.
And how I could get access to, let's say, barcode from JavaScript? So is this like, I would say, some new Gluon and something like this? Is this like JavaScript API or?
It's a Java API. So, but with if you
my idea. So how I would do it exactly? I would do in Java. I would wrap the Gluon attach, pass it to the JavaScript view, and then I can just call it from Java. What we did with Nashorn and all the years, right? So I could
exactly.
Okay, this is perfect, even better. So I could actually create my own nicer wrapper. So with nicer, I mean, let's say barcode. So what I could do is I could create a simpler API which wraps your barcode API with added value and expose my API to JavaScript.
Yeah. And that's actually what a big customer of ours is using in the cultural sector. So they have that's on a kiosk system. So they have a web page and it scans barcodes, and that's then being sent to a server. And that's
And this is, for instance, a way easier than with Flutter, because I have a Gluon attach, right? I can create with Java my own API. This is what we did in Nashorn for years without any JavaFX. We actually used some Java code, and I exposed the JavaScript Java code to JavaScript, and I built rule engines, validation logic in JavaScript, and loaded it from somewhere. And this is now other way around. So we have the device capabilities provided by you. I could create integration logic, my own logic with Java, and not to make the components too complicated. I could even test it outside of the component, my integration logic, and then how to call it, push it to the JavaScript engine and just call it from JavaScript as if it were a native browser API.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It will be Gluon dot get scan, and it will scan.
Yeah. So it works both ways. So the JavaScript, which is really both ways. So you can create a JavaScript API and call that from your web site, or you can create a Java API and call that from via JavaScript. And it allows you to react on to implement callbacks. If a device detects something, it can call back into the JavaScript into your JavaScript component and trigger an event. So it really works both ways.
I could even use standard custom events in Web Components, which are called by JavaScript or whatever, or I could just use a Redux or whatever. So actually, this is countless possibilities. So you seem to be bored with my question, but the problem is a huge news, for Java developers, because you work with that all the time. It's normal for you, but this is not that normal in mobile development, because there are not lots of possibilities where I can extend the capabilities of API on my desktop and then ship it to the client and then use web standards, what I also I'm using for boring apps. And with the JavaScript and Web Components, you can have your own layout which uses whatever corporate identity you will have to use, and then they are calling native stuff. So
yes.
And what's really interesting, the first time JavaFX was 10 years ago was not well known to support the newest WebKit engine, but in this particular case, we get the newest. Because in iOS, there's no way to use something else. What is the story on Android? So you also get the native Android view?
Yes, we get that. We also use the same underlying WebKit implementation that Android is using itself.
Mm-hmm.
So if it works on an Android Chrome app, for example, it works on the JavaFX web view as well.
And how recent is it on desktop? Do I have an influence, or can I just use the recent WebKit, or what is the story on the desktop? So on PC or Mac?
On desktop, we currently bundle with WebKit, and we pull in changes from the official WebKit project, especially for the security fixes, every quarter or so. So we are pretty recent, and with some hot fixes, we sometimes go faster.
So every quarter, it means it's probably more recent than the Safari is, like? Because
probably, yes.
Yeah, they're still better than expected. I mean, yeah.
Well, I think, and this is one of the other things. One of the most important parts of Java security, and we spend lots of effort in making sure that the third-party components that we use are secure. And if there's a vulnerability in a WebKit, and companies or medical companies are using that for transmitting private information, and they are hacked, then we have a big problem. So therefore, it's really important for us to make sure that we might not always have the latest hip versions, but we will have the latest secure versions.
Yeah, the latest hip in WebKit is almost pointless because Safari is older than the WebKit, I would say, right? So because you get OS releases once a year, and the updates are not that frequent on macOS, and the Chrome is the Blink engine. And another question: so if I use the controls, and let's say checkboxes, buttons, or whatever, do always look the same, or could I use the native iOS components, or what's the story behind that?
Yeah, that's a question we occasionally get. And now from a technical point, we would be able to create wrappers around those native components. But then there's a question, do you want to have one set of wrappers? For example, a Gluon text field that then renders the native iOS text field on iOS and the native text iOS Android text field on Android. The problem with that is that those APIs are not exactly the same. So that means that you need to go to the biggest common denominator, which is not what you want. If you really want to have native behavior, then you don't want to have the biggest global denominator between iOS and Android. So that doesn't work. So the alternative is, well, you can wrap the iOS specific components and the Android specific components, but then you're not doing cross-platform again. So therefore, our approach is that we use the JavaFX approach. So we have the JavaFX components that are cross-platform and that are then rendered using the JavaFX hardware acceleration. And with Gluon Mobile, we have a set of specific CSS extensions specific to iOS, specific to Android, and some specific mobile components, like, for example, the floating action button. And so that is something that you typically don't use on desktop, but you use it on mobile. So that's a set of controls that are mobile specific, that follow the material design guidelines, and that are looking very native on iOS and Android. Not 100% native because, for example, the text field is still a JavaFX text field. So if you're really a mobile expert, you would notice that it probably looks different. But for most users and most use cases, it doesn't matter. It is, though, if I'm honest about it, if you really need to create an application that's really native, then I would recommend go with iOS native and Android native. Then don't use Flutter or React Native or whatever as well. Then really go native. And you know that it's much more expensive, harder to maintain. But sometimes, if that is your brand and if that is your core value, then go for it. But for most of the, especially business applications, you really want to have a cross-platform brand, and you want your brand to be present in the application, not iOS or Android. And therefore, JavaFX is really very good because you can, you have the same style on iOS and Android, and you can still, with different CSSs, you have a different native look on iOS and on Android.
Yeah, the whole argumentation is not reasonable in some companies because, as you probably know, it is not the question what is reasonable. The question is what a product manager would like to have, right? And if they say, I would like to have, native components, so there is no arguing with him because it's not very technical. He read, or she or he read an article somewhere in a business magazine and say, okay, native components are rocking, so you will lose this argumentation. So the question was, it would be possible, but you say, okay, this is a huge effort and the added value is minimal. But if a company,
it's not really a huge effort to do, but it's a huge effort to maintain.
Yeah, fiddling, because lots of corner cases between all the components, how they behave, how to handle events, and this is to do it right. It is not fun to do. But what it means is everything which is not fun to do is usually commercial. So if a company, would like to have it, they can just hire you and you could do this because, give me the components, we will do it, and then we can expose it. So this is not, a technical issue. It's just we as architects or Java developers think it's not reasonable.
There are no technical reasons on why it can't be done.
you mentioned hardware acceleration. So on desktop, it is GPU accelerated. What's the story on mobile? So how fast is it?
Yeah, well, GPU accelerated as well, and on mobile, we even benefit more from that because on the CPUs on mobile are pretty slow compared to the CPUs on desktop, but the GPUs on mobile are often almost the same quality as the GPUs on desktop because mobile is more used for UI stuff. So and their JavaFX, which uses GPU intensively, really benefit from that part, and that is. One of the things on why JavaFX is so great on mobile because it leverages the component that's the most important component on mobile, and we currently use OpenGL for rendering to the GPU with EGL. And it's exactly the same. So the OpenGL code is almost the same on desktop and on mobile, and on embedded. So that means that the thing that makes it much faster on desktop also makes it much faster on mobile. Oracle is now working on a rendering pipeline using a Metal,
Exactly,
the new Apple thing.
But this is the JEP, right? This is the OpenJDK JEP, what I'm working. Yeah.
Yes, there's a JEP for, and so they're doing that for 2D, and then the work can be used in FX as well. There's Vulkan, which is which might be interesting as well. So we're looking into that too. But it's again here we're using whatever is available in the industry as the as a standard, and we're trying to make our life not too hard. And instead of writing our own GL layer, we use whatever is available.
Yeah. Sounds even better. So I mean, as a smart decision. So what I understood is it is always GPU accelerated, and you can even reuse the desktop code to run on mobile. And if you get, the OpenJDK JEP hardware acceleration, I forgot this funky name for that. The JEP acceleration for Mac OS, the Metal. So then JavaFX and Swing will run better on Mac. And of course, you can just pick the rendering pipeline for JavaFX and improve the experience even further. So I know you. So then now the question: have you already tried the Apple Silicon and M1?
No, I don't have a hardware access.
What's wrong with you? You're getting older. I thought already that after the keynote you already had you got the. Have you got the developer toolkit from Apple?
No. So that's the point. If I would have, if they would send me a device, I would do it. And with the HTC Diamond, I bought 2 of those at Java 1. So I could implement it overnight. And I do remember actually that I had an issue, so that I went to the booth there, and they fixed it for me. Mm-hmm. But Apple doesn't. And actually, Sun sent me few times a Spark station so that I could port Linux to those with Java, but Apple doesn't send me hardware. If they would do, I would look at it, of course. But we got the question a few times already, and actually, the most of our work on mobile and embedded is dealing with ARM CPUs. Yeah. So I'm very glad that they're gonna use that on desktop as well, because we have lots of experience with ARM, and it's. My impression is that it will mainly just be the tool chain that will be changed, and some compiler flags will be added. But that's
what I wanted to say is you were late, because what Apple did is if you would apply, you could get the hardware for €200 or something, and they would send you like Mac Mini with the new hardware in last summer. So this was, I see you're getting older. Usually you would spend the €200 and play with it.
So it's not that I'm getting older, it's that I have to spend more time in sales and marketing for explaining people that they can use.
Or, Java 1 is missing, because Java 1 was the week, where sleepless nights and lots of experimentation. Yeah. And now we have no Java 1, so everything goes more reasonable.
Yes.
Yeah, but this is even bigger news for JavaFX, what it would mean on for M1 and Apple Silicon on the future for macOS. I would actually try, to get in touch with Apple. Why? What you probably know, some people from old friends from Java E are working for open source Apple right now, right? For open source program at Apple. So there's something happens in the Apple ecosystem. And the next one is what Apple did with the Apple Silicon Big Sur and M1 is that you can run actually iOS software on Mac. So and in your case, what it would mean is actually you could run JavaFX in any combination, right? So you could run the native JavaFX on as in desktop mode. You could reuse the code from the mobile on desktop, and this is also actually, I would say, great news for Apple developers even. Because I think so. I just listened to many Xcode developers and Swift, and this seems still be not as great what we had with JavaFX for years. The developer experience on Mac comparing to ours. So I think there will be a huge new opportunity for new developers without any Java knowledge now to use JavaFX to write native applications for M1 chips. I mean Apple on ARM, Apple Silicon, and with Catalyst port them back and forth, right? It's actually a huge opportunity, if you ask me, commercial opportunity.
Yeah, yes, well, and also for developers, it's going to be easier because, well, you talked about the emulator. Well, actually, the iOS simulator. We don't. I don't think we have. We shipped it already in the latest substrate version. We have it working internally, but it's that requires us to recompile everything using native image to x86-64. Because and that is a bit silly because if we could use ARM64, then we could use the same binaries on iOS and on Mac, or at least the same formats. And so yeah, I'm really looking forward to the ARM support on Mac. That's
what I will do, regardless now how busy you are. I will ping Apple and say, look, I would like to talk at your next conference. And show it the case and explain exactly. We shouldn't start, too much with Java because they hate Java usually, all of the iOS developers. But if you will manage to show them how it really works with GraalVM native and ARM, I think there is a huge opportunity. Because it is not what we talk about right now is not obvious to lots of developers, right?
Yeah, that is indeed. Well, it is obvious once you explain it to them, but that is very hard. And whenever I speak at JUXA, for example, I'm still surprised that most people don't even know that this is possible, that Java runs on mobile devices. So that's really hard. Actually, but that's a side thing. We're talking about JavaFX, but one of the biggest, one of where I spend lots of time is in making Java running on mobile. Because if we talk about, we have the whole Java virtual machine embedded in the application compared with GraalVM native image. That means that the JVM and the garbage collector and the threading and so needs to work on iOS and Android as well. And I'm the lead for OpenJDK Mobile, where we have the iOS Android specific extensions to the JDK. So yeah, we're maintaining that as well, but it was a huge effort, but at this moment the diff is very small, to a couple of hundred lines. But that is something that, well, developers are typically not aware of, that the standard Java runs on iOS and Android. And well, yeah, maybe you're right about talking to Apple. Well, I pinged them a few times in the past, but I never got a response. So they were not extremely interested in Java.
The right people. So I will.
Yeah, that was before some former Java EE people went.
Yeah, exactly.
There.
So okay, so after the show, I will give you some resources. But what's, I think, from marketing perspective. So to summarize what we talk about, what actually, I would try to do this, and you can correct me. So this is not technically correct, but what we get is we can write Java code, right? So as we did. And then with some machinery, directly compile this stuff to a native program where the for iOS device or for Android device, there's no distinction between this Java program and program written in Objective-C or written in Swift. That's the point. This is what we manage with the entire toolchain. And on desktop, we can have the choice whether we would like to run the program as a setup exe or whatever, or as a traditional Java application. Right. So if you put it this way, I think this becomes obvious, because then you see the potential, because then it is limitless, right? So you can just write whatever you like, and as long as you are not thrown away from the App Store, which actually cannot happen, because if you follow it can happen if you don't follow the Apple rule. But from technical perspective, it's not like we try to run Java secretly on the device, what Cordova did and all the others. They try to interpret JavaScript, which is not legal. And what you didn't mention, this is also huge. We have GraalVM. You mentioned Python. What we also have, we could use R with some machine learning, and what is also runs on GraalVM. And we have probably the most compatible Node.js and JavaScript implementation. So we can even use JavaScript in a legal way on the on iOS, because it gets cross-compiled, or how transpiled. What's the name actually for it? So if we take JavaScript and run it on GraalVM and compile it to native image, what is the technical term? Is cross-compilation? No, right? It is.
No. Yeah, I don't know. Well, we call it whatever others want to call it. Transpile is often used as a word. So transpiling Java bytecode into native code. But
okay. But transpile on JavaScript is completely different. You will convert source code from TypeScript to JavaScript, right? So you are transforming the ASTs and.
So there you can execute the JavaScript code on the GraalVM VM, and the terminology is I try to stay away from that, because some people are very picky on it, and I'm not. So,
yeah. But what happens technically? So the JavaScript on GraalVM becomes, at the end of the day, they have some abstraction layer called, I think, Truffle, and this JavaScript will be accessible from Java and Python and R. And at the end of the day, everything becomes bytecode, which gets transformed to a native image. And then the native image looks from Xcode like something written in C. So there is no distinction. And then and then you can submit the whole package to AppStores, right?
Yes. So ultimately, what native image is going to do is create some C code that would otherwise have been created with your Xcode tools.
Yeah.
And there's an LLVM backend that can do that, but there's also a native ARM64 backend. So in the end, it's you only have C code. You have native iOS code for the ARM64 CPU. So that's and the source of that is irrelevant if it comes from an Objective-C file or a Swift file or a Java bytecode and then compiled file. That's irrelevant, and so it can come from a Java application, but it can also come from an R application or from any of the languages that are supported by Truffle. So Truffle is the abstraction layer, more or less, that allows different languages to be ported so that they can run on the GraalVM runtime. So for the end result, it's indistinguishable whether your, at least I think so, whether your application was written in Java or in JavaScript or in R or so. That's the power of GraalVM. And there are some nice demos that show this in a single application, that you execute some Python code. So you start a Java application, you have a Java application, you start a Python engine, you execute some code in Python, and the result is you get it back in JavaScript, you do some JavaScript operation, and you return it to Java, and you continue in Java. So that's really polyglot, and that whole application with all the different languages can then be compiled into one executable. And there it doesn't matter anymore what the original source code was.
Maybe I will find Christmas sometime, but I'm almost 80% done. What I did is I actually wanted to create my own blog engine, and I said, okay, before I do it, in privately, I would create a workshop how I did it, and created like a micro profile workshop. And what I did then is okay, if you just have micro profile, you don't have JSPs and JSF, so how to render the thing. And I used the GraalVM and used JavaScript, and I loaded mustache and handlebars like templating engines, and they were executed on Java. So from Java, I called them, they render for me the HTML, and I put it on screen. And this was all like one class, and it's very similar to NAS1. I did it with NAS1 back then, and now I can use GraalVM, and it runs faster. And by the way, I really missed EJBs back for that, because with EJBs we got the pooling, which is not possible with CDI. And with CDI it's really painful. I would implement a CDI for fun, but it's not easy. With EJB it's stateless, and it would work because every EJB would get one context of the JavaScript. And with CDI this
I was doing exactly the same over the weekend. Then I was wondering as well, where did the pooling from EGBs go to? That's a different...
This is a different conversation. So one last thing. So you are true open source guy. So whatever I mentioned a second is also available open source. But let's say a company would like to pay you some money for unknown reasons. For what? So what they can do it, they can buy support from it. What you will get, frequent patches, right? I assume this would be the least what I would expect from Glue. So.
Yeah. So what we do from a commercial point. So first of all, well, as you said in the beginning, we released JavaFX 15. we actually recommend developers to use 16 early access releases.
Okay.
But we also maintain JavaFX 11, and so we are now at 11.010, and that's commercially supported. That contains all the security fixes and that is accessible to customers of Gluon JavaFX long-term
One question:
support.
what is the difference naming JavaFX and OpenJFX?
The OpenJFX is the repository.
Okay.
It's like OpenJDK.
Okay.
And Java.
Okay.
So,
and JavaFX is one distribution of the repository, or one tag, or one release, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So OpenJFX is just the project, and then frequently there's tagged and tested, and then we get JavaFX.
Yes.
Very
yes.
good.
And then you have JavaFX 11, 15, 16 early access, and so.
And you are also behind the release process of the repository?
Yes. Yes, we make the releases for JavaFX 15, 16. We make actually all the public releases. We upload them to Maven Central, and we also offer them as SDKs on the Gluon website.
Okay, so now I got the preview 16. What I get from Gluon?
If you want to, if you're a developer and you want to play with the latest features, then the early access releases are what I recommend. If you're a company and you want to put this in production and you want to distribute it or whatever, you want to probably get some support. You want to make sure that you get security updates, and you also want to be able to influence the roadmap. And that is what our JavaFX 11 long-term support contract does for you. One of the major things that customers really like is that if you look at the Jira for JavaFX, there are thousands of issues there, and we're not working on all of them. But our customers say that, for example, this issue is important to us, this issue is also important, and so we shift the priorities of the roadmap. And we make it sure that if they see an issue or if they encounter an issue, that it can be put on the roadmap. That's not. That doesn't mean that we are going to solve it immediately for free, but just the fact that their issues or their feature requests are put on the roadmap and are being discussed, and so it's already seems to be very helpful to companies. They know that they are heard, and that someone from the core team is looking into their issues. So they get stability, they get mature releases, and they get access to the core development. So that is what we do in that JavaFX LTS program. We're apart from that, we have Gluon Mobile, where we have this specific set of mobile-specific controls. We're also adding more tools in there. For example, we have Gluon Maps, which is a JavaFX mapping
and the
component.
Gluon Mobile is open source, or do we have to buy it, or what's?
No, Gluon Mobile is commercial, and it contains a number of things. Some of them are commercial components, and other are GPL components. But that is we are working on a better explanation as to explain what is part of Gluon Mobile. It is actually the Gluon-specific enhancements to the OpenJFX that make it easier to develop mobile applications that come, for example, with the floating action button.
Exactly.
And these things. And also, so Gluon Attach is a GPL, so that means that you can use it for free in your open source applications. If you want to use it in a proprietary closed application, you need a license from Gluon, and that's part of Gluon Mobile, for example. So the add-ons that we distribute are maintained in Gluon Mobile. And then, of course, what we the third product that we have is Gluon Cloud Link, which makes it easier to connect your client applications with cloud applications and connect to serverless applications on serverless servers. And that is a very useful component because on mobile you often need to execute some business logic, but the business logic may change. So what we have is a component that instead of doing REST requests to data sources from the mobile device, it just invokes a serverless function on a server, which then does the real business logic and queries the other backends. And if some of the backends change or something changes, you only update the serverless code on the server, and you don't have to update the mobile app, which is much more painful.
Similar to Firebase, something like Firebase, you know?
Yes. So that is some of the functionality is offered by Firebase as well, but I think that the serverless functionality that we add is really cool to Java developers. And it's being used, for example, the DevOps mobile scheduler uses it.
So you created your own backend, which is serverless runtime, right?
Well, we leverage serverless. We have our own serverless container using the event project, but we also integrate with AWS Lambda or Oracle Functions, for example. So if customers want to run their serverless Lambdas on AWS, that's fine. So they use Gluon Cloud Link, which is the middleware that we offer as a SaaS solution. And the mobile application will say that, for example, give me all the sessions from next week. And that is just sort of an RPC call that then goes to Gluon Cloud Link, where the customer configured it that if this call comes in, you need to call this AWS Lambda with this and this parameters. And if the results come back, first do this conversion, for example, everything minus 1 hour because there seems to be a bug in the backend. So before we send it back to the client, and
immediate idea. What you can do, you could wrap it with microprofile GraphQL, right? So you could provide a GraphQL API as added value, and the resolvers, which will just call to the backend. So this will be doable.
Yeah, that's funny because that's indeed on the roadmap. So GraphQL is something that that's on the roadmap. Yes.
And another one, which is really interesting but lesser known, is it's called not OpenAPI. This is from Microsoft. It's Open Data, OData. And the GraphQL is a little bit painful. For you, use case is perfect, but in usual projects is pointless because you need a server which resolves the calls. And OData from Microsoft, SAP uses a lot of OData, for instance. And what it is like a database exposed via reflection. And it is RESTful API, but you don't need the resolvers. So you can plug directly, to a database. This was created for that reason. And this is an open source project as Apache Olingo, if you would like to look at this. So I already a conversation with the committers from the project on the podcast. And why I bumped to it, because in one project they used SAP, and SAP is a normal. This is the OData. And you can create the entire UI in the front end, just talking, via OData. And I look at that, and it's really interesting because what they have already built in is filters, pagination, everything in RESTful manner. And for me, it looks more interesting than GraphQL, but it's not as popular. So I mean, that's the problem. But this is a standard, looks nice, and is really, really useful.
Yeah, so these are indeed the kind of integrations that we are doing with Gluon Cloud Link. So we also integrate with Oracle Autonomous Database and Pivotal thing and so GraphQL and then OData. I'll have a look at it. So those are really and I think that ultimately those are the important ones. Those are the ones that will create business value. Mm-hmm. Now, in order to get there, and then it's full circle, we need to make sure that enough developers are using Java and JavaFX on mobile. Yeah. And in order to get there, we need to make sure that Java and JavaFX are vibrant. So that's why we spend so much time in the open source, OpenJDK and OpenJFX community. It's all part of the plan that ultimately will create business value in Gluon Cloud Link by doing these integrations with cloud and server engines.
But this is longer term, and this is harder to sell, really, with a Cloud Link, because I have to trust you about reliability, whatever. But what we talked before, with the capabilities in one Java application to ship at the same time to desktop, iOS, and Android unchanged, this is immediately obvious killer use case. And what you get from support. What I understood is, if I buy support from you, it is similar to support for Linux. Plus, I get a communication channel to you directly, so you can suggest stuff, influence what's interesting to me. So I get immediate feedback from you. So, okay, look, we could do this, but we have a better way. So this is a little bit light consulting, so that I get at least which direction you are going. And I can also ask you to prioritize the issues from the Jira, which is huge actually for larger projects. So this is immediate. The Cloud Link comes later. I mean, then if the companies already trust you, I don't think you could start to sell Cloud Link without the first one. This is just too much, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So I'm a developer, basically, or consultant. If I would like to ship a serious commercial application, do I have to buy from you one license, or will I have per client, let's say, or will I have to count, the devices and pay per CPU or whatever?
Yeah, so that is something that we're still working out. We have developer-based licenses, so the JavaFX 11 long-term support is per developer. So one developer is one seat, or it's in group if you have 1 or 2 developers, and then from 3 to 5 it's that price. And so for embedded we have volume-based, and for mobile it's difficult. At this moment it's developer-based. So if you are one developer and you create a commercial application, so if you have a free application, don't worry, everything is for free. If you have a commercial application, then and if you're one developer, then you pay one license for Gluon Mobile. But we are working on that model, and that explains why I didn't have time to do the Apple stuff.
Okay.
But it's it's a difficult question, because suppose that you're one developer and you create an application that's being used by 200 million users, and you make billions of it. And then you pay one license to us, so $1,000 a year. So that's not proportional to, for example, if you're a big company with 50 developers that are creating an app that's used by 200 people that are doing something, that are barely making money out of it, but then you would have to pay 200 licenses. So it's a difficult model.
Because what could really happen is, I get the question though frequently, can you build for us an app? And so on, I see more and more, the integration scenario. So one day I will approach you. And in my case is like, and I really like to pay for support just to support, I mean, if I something use with an added value, why not pay back something? But what happens to me is clients ask me which various sizes. I always sometimes even don't know by how many users the app is used, but this is usually a small app because I cannot, or proof of concept or whatever. So I would expect to pay you probably one license per client would be fair. And then the client, for instance, they will have to pay the support costs. So there will be different model, my developer license that I'm develop and make the application operational. But if they would like to have support, then they have to negotiate with you, the support costs, because my job is just to build the app, and this is one license per client or per seat. I don't care. I can pay per client, whatever. But how often it is used, I'm out of the game. So I get paid, and I focus on another project, and they have to negotiate with you, about the support costs and patches and whatever, right?
Right. Yes. That's so a combination of those two things is ideal. The difficult thing is to make it clear and transparent, and to cover all the corner cases. That's but that idea is indeed fair and valid, and that's what we aim for. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. The last question, we are a little bit over time, but it's always interesting chat with you. So actually, Oracle is a great steward of Java, right? So I'm really sad that Sun is no more around. But I mean, I mean, if you look at, they have still some decisions which are strange for me. But if you look at GraalVM is like huge, right? But it is like huge news, and did this actually make Java interesting again? Then maybe such things happens by mistake at Oracle time, but they still turn out to be great, right? Or the commercial version of Oracle Java. The impact was that we have now lots of OpenJDKs from different vendors. We can buy, commercial support from other companies, which was not possible before. So, I mean, at the end of the day, looks good, right?
Yes. So I think with the Java module system, many developers are pretty vocal about how much they hate it, but I think it was a major necessary thing that needed to happen, and this makes Java relevant again for the next 20-something years, and also the fast release cycle. I think that is working very, very well. So they did a great job there. In making it possible to have new features faster, but still maintain the stability that we are used from the Java language. So I'm really happy with how that development is going. And then the GraalVM part is extremely exciting, because that is also, well, when I say that the modules is going to make Java relevant for the next 20-something years, I think GraalVM is going to make the Java platform relevant for the next 20-something years, because that is really where the IT industry is moving into those standalone images and support for polyglots, and so that is and that is a very smart investment that Oracle made there. And I think that is I think the main issue that I see with Oracle is that they they barely seem to realize what a huge competitive advantage they have.
Technical they don't
point.
sell it at all. So they do lots of great things, and this is basically invisible. Or, you know, I don't know whether you know the Helidon team from Oracle, the Helidon runtime. Yeah. Great people, great thing, and this is almost no one noticed how good it actually is, right?
Well, it actually is the same as what I said earlier. Oracle has everything to outcompete Android with Java on mobile, but they go to court instead.
Yeah.
but they have all the technology to outcompete them. So,
or you mentioned the project FN, I think this was FN what you mentioned, right? The Java function project. So actually, it was really great. But if you look at the GitHub repository, there are no more lots of commits. You know, this is not and this is a sad story actually, because it had huge potential.
Yep. Yeah. So those things happen.
Yeah. Now, question: where people can find you on the internet? So, what are the links? You know, commercial and open source, whatever. Your Twitter accounts, or just now is your marketing time?
Yeah. So the website of Gluon is gluonhq.com.
Mm-hmm.
And the products are explained there. Everyone complains that our website should focus more on this or that, so we're continuously evolving that. My Twitter handle is Johan Vos, that's where. But mainly the website and the Gluon Twitter handle is at GluonHQ. So that is where you will find news and where you can start discussions.
Okay, so thank you. It was a fun, and I would like to invite you back next year to talk a little bit, probably quantum computing, if you don't mind. So a little bit.
Yeah, that would be very interesting to talk about as well. My book will be out in January, I think.
Oh, very good. So then I will buy your book and read it, try to understand it. I think Mission Impossible probably, but then I will ask you, about.
It would be a good test case. I think if you don't understand it, I did a very bad job.
Oh, then okay. Then I will spend a lot of time of education, to. Thank you. Then see you January, February, I would say. Again, talk about the news. Bye.
Great.